Turn off these devices. All right, good evening, everyone. Time is 7:11 p.m. Thank you for your patience as we navigated technology challenges. Call to order this City Council regular meeting. Announce that a quorum is present. Everyone, please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Bow your heads. Dear Lord, we just thank you for today. We thank you for another day of life. We ask you to bless.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. First up, we have some proclamations in order. First one is declaring Thursday, September 11th, 2025 as National Day of Service and Remembrance, 9/11. And so that one reads, whereas the City of Manor recognizes the profound impact of events on September 11, 2001, and the lives lost, the heroes who responded, and the resilience demonstrated by communities across the nation. And whereas the National Day of Service and Remembrance, observed annually on September 11th, serves as a time for reflection, honor, community service, and commemorate those who are affected. And whereas it is essential to foster a spirit of unity, compassion, and service within our community to honor the legacy of service and sacrifice. And whereas the City of Manor encourages all residents, organizations, and civic groups to participate in acts of service, remembrance activities, and community engagement on this important day. Now, therefore, I, Dr. Christopher Harvey, Mayor of City Council, and on behalf of the Manor City Council, do hereby proclaim Thursday, September 11th, 2025, as National Day of Service and Remembrance, 9/11 Day, in the City of Manor, and urge all residents to observe this day in acts of kindness, service, and respect, honoring the strength and resilience of our nation. In witness hereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Manor to be affixed this third day, September 25. Dr. Christopher Harvey, Mayor, City of Manor, Texas. Do we have anyone? Oh, all right. Come on down, sir.
You stand right here with me. You stand right here with me.
Yes, stand here. That's short.
Yeah.
You got it?
Queso.
Oh, y'all still back here? All right. Our next is declaring September 15th, through October 15th, 2025 as Hispanic Heritage Month. Here's our proclamation. Whereas Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated nationally from September 15th through October 15th to recognize and honor the rich histories, cultures, and contributions of Hispanic Americans and Latino Americans. Whereas the diverse Hispanic and Latino communities have played a vital role shaping our history, culture, and progress in our nation, state, and our city. And whereas it is important to acknowledge the achievements, traditions, and enduring contributions of Hispanic Americans in areas such as arts, sciences, education, government, business, and community service. And whereas the City of Manor is committed to fostering an inclusive community that respects and celebrates cultural diversity and promotes mutual understanding and appreciation. Now, therefore, I, Dr. Christopher Harvey, Mayor of the City of Manor, Texas, and on behalf of the Manor City Council, do hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th, 2025 as Hispanic Heritage Month in the City of Manor, and I encourage all residents to participate in activities and programs that highlight the valuable contributions of our Hispanic Americans and Latino Americans. And when it's forever, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Manor to be fixed this third day of September 2025. Dr. Christopher Harvey, Mayor, City of Manor. I know we have some events coming up. Do you want to quickly come up and announce the days, and then we can go do a photo for this as well? The day of the events and stuff.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Tracy Vasquez, HR Director with the city. October 4th, Saturday, we have Hispanic Heritage Celebration coming to Timmerman Park. We've got lots of vendors coming out. Bitty Bitty Banda will be our band playing. The program starts at 12 and ends at 6 p.m. We have mariachis. It's going to be a great time. Vendors, as always, going down the trail. We have a great turnout, so we're excited. This is our second annual event, and we're hoping to make it bigger than better than last year. Y'all come on down and enjoy.
Did we get enough volunteers?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Yep. We're good.
All right. Let's go down and do the photo for this one. All those that want to go down.
It's hard for them to do pattern. I don't like picture.
Come on, princess. I'm not. Honorary. That's true. 24 years. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
All right. Always good to have celebrations and appreciations. Let's see, public comments. We don't have public comments. We just have folks signed up for agenda items. So we'll move through public comments and go through to our public hearing. Public hearing number 1, conduct a public hearing on a specific use permit for a 5,000 square foot medical office, one lot on 5.565 acres more or less, and being TCAD parcel 236976, also known as 14305 East US Highway 290, Manor, Texas. Yes, sir.
Mayor, Council, my name is Michael Burrell, Development Services Director for the City of Manor. This is the public hearing that was left open last meeting, as the first reading for the zoning needed to be completed before this item could come. Specific use permits only have one public hearing and one regular item. The purpose of this request is to utilize a heavily encumbered lot that's about 80 to 90% floodplain. Medical office will allow them to achieve a commercial use while still providing reasonable service to citizens, but not be over encumbered with some of our other more challenging site requirements with retail or things of that nature.
Okay. Mr. Granillo, did you want to say anything now, or did you just here for questions? Did you want to say anything in the public hearing, or are you good?
I'm the civil engineer actually for the site. I'm available for any questions.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions, council members, for engineer or for Ms. Burrell? Give you a few more seconds.
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 1.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Mesquite. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we're going to move on to a second public hearing item. Conduct a public hearing on a specific use permit for a commercial gas station development to include 8 MPDs and 4 EV charging stations in the Okra subdivision on one lot on 4.111 acres, more or less, and being located at the northwest intersection of Old Manor, Taylor Road, and FM 973 Manor, Texas. Yes, sir.
Mayor Council, this item was also left open at the last council meeting to allow for further information to be gathered, and packets have been provided to you physically, and it's also within the agenda tonight. The applicant is available to give the presentation and answer any potential questions you have afterwards.
Let's see, Ms. Shanks, did you want to talk now or did you want to talk at the agenda? At the agenda item section?
She asked if she can give the presentation at the agenda item, if it has to be during the public hearing.
We can do it at the agenda if we can do it at the agenda item part. All right. Unless y'all want to do it now. Want to wait till the agenda? Okay, we'll do it at the agenda. Any questions, council members?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 2.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Mesquite. Any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Public hearing, item number 3, conduct a public hearing on the fiscal year 2025-2026 proposed annual budget.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. This is Belen, Finance Director for the City of Manor, and this is a hearing for the fiscal year 25-26 proposed annual budget. And we held 7 workshops from April all the way to August to discuss each department budget. And the budget is a balanced budget.
Do we have anyone in the audience for a conversation or comments on the budget? On the proposed budget? I know no one signed up. Okay. Questions, comments, council members?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we close.
Wait. Not yet.
I have a question. Have you received any comments or questions from the community since it's been posted? Okay.
The proposed budget was posted on the website, and it's available for the public to come to City Hall and review it if they prefer to do it in person.
Well, for my comments, want to first thank you for all of the time that you've been here employed and working on the audits you got through and continue to build upon the reporting and the planning for our budget. Just want to make sure that first I say that we definitely appreciate all that hard work and the work that you're doing on getting us numbers and accurate numbers and the fast turnaround to our questions. And and responding to my email and giving me that information. I appreciate that. Council members in here, just want to kind of highlight a few things. One of which is definitely around in our region, we're seeing a lot of entities that are raising their taxes, their tax rate, and other cities around us and even counties are looking to do increases. And this budget does not. I know we have tax rate hearing coming up, but I just want to make sure people understand this budget does not request or look towards a tax rate increase in the community. And I think that's important work. And I know this was part of what council members had talked about in one of our budget workshops to ensure that we looked for ways to maintain what we have established and take care of our needs, but not raise taxes. So again, city staff, we definitely appreciate you all's diligence and looking at how to make sure that could happen. Because that's, again, most folks that are in this region are not doing that. There's a lot of cities that are having to do, and even school districts across the region. I was at a meeting earlier today, and everybody was with a lot of elected officials from 5 different counties, and that was kind of the topic of the day. And so kudos to council, kudos to you, city manager, Belen, and staff for working to maintain that. In regards to efficiencies, I wonder, because I know we have time between now and when we have to do the official voting of the budget, I wonder if there's a way to look at efficiencies in the vacancies and the current vacancies per department and the requests, to see if there's maybe a way to limit the staff requests and repurpose maybe some of the vacancies to the requests. You know what I mean? So that we don't have, 2 vacancies that have sat here for a while, and then we're saying we need these other 2 positions here. Or maybe we look at, instead, since we couldn't fill those 2 positions, repurposing those positions to the actual need, or to the new request, especially if we believe we can get that position. Also, maybe looking into if it's a hard to fill position, working with human resources and maybe some, I don't know if it's TML or whomever we use for salary studies, to see if we need to maybe condense a few positions and go higher in the pay rate so that we can be able to attract someone that can come in and pay those positions. Because I know, like right now, I know it's not what we're asking for, but I was dealing with some capital area workforce folks this week, and they were talking about like HVAC people are bouncing around to the highest price. So just looking at maybe some of those studies and saying, okay, well, this is out of the positions we're posting, this one is going to have the biggest impact on the workload. And so maybe, looking and seeing, okay, what would make us competitive, not necessarily trying to have the top pay rate, but maybe looking at how we can maybe look at $1 or $2 or whatever it needs to be, plus culture, the culture of being in the city of Manor family, and seeing how we can sell those things. So I know we have in the budget is also a cost of living increase. We also have housing that's available to city employees at below market rate, and so maybe looking at all of those things and packaging some recruitment advertisement that says, hey, not only do you get to enjoy this great staff, but it's a little bit more money, and we have housing that's affordable. So just something to consider between now and that next meeting for that. And then the other thing I got just looking at the numbers was historically, we've always had balanced budgets. We've always had good financial ratings. I'm wondering if we can start looking towards setting aside dollars for the incoming departments as we finish the bond projects for or start the, those processes and building those buildings, we're going to need staffing for that. And so just trying to look at how we can shave away some of those costs in the budget so we can start building the departmental budget for that. Because from my rough, very, very, very rough and unprofessional estimates, when that time comes, it's probably going to be about 7 to 8 million that we'll need for that. And so that's not going to come out anywhere. So I think maybe looking at kind of those proposed, who is it, our financial advisory folks, looking at what their conservative numbers across the years, what our increases will be with, potential with the ad valorem and those things. Also looking with maybe Mr. Jones and looking and seeing, from those 380s and the different developments coming in, what our projections may be and increase ad valorem, and then trying to make a pathway towards the necessary savings we need to do so that when the building's open, we've already carved out the funding for that. And not just the people, but the operations costs. Like we talked about in the workshops, the ongoing maintenance and operation of buildings has been a thing that our city hasn't had to do because we're growing so fast and we haven't had to do those things. So, thinking about the regular, who's going to do the ongoing maintenance, and so that might be a whole new team of folks that we don't have right now. But making sure there's a budget for maintaining the facilities and those kind of things, so we don't be in a situation where, like the police are, and that everything's kind of falling apart because we didn't budget that.
Yes, and this budget is just a guide. It doesn't mean that we have to follow it to the penny. I mean, we can revisit throughout the year if you wanna a vacancy, if you wanna replace it with a different one, or create or remove positions. And we have seen on like the sales tax that are increasing. Like from last month, we received this month 85,000 more.
Yeah.
And we just have, a few businesses that are open, few restaurants. Now with the new, all the new stores, I mean, we're gonna see a big increase in the sales tax.
Yeah,
And of course,
and you're
property
absolutely
tax.
right. We are seeing those increases. I just also know that now we're looking at securing more water. We're looking at trying to attract a regional hospital to the area, and a lot of those things are going to require, infrastructure dollars, incentives, and different things to try to ensure that we lock down those major things. We also have some big plans for the Townsboro area, and then for our 230 acres. And so we want to make sure that we definitely have a good funding amount that's in the general fund, that's not necessarily in the fund balance. So we don't have to ever tap that or do a CO or something like that to fund those things, but we're actually putting money away for these types of things so we can write a check or balance against it. With a bank or something, and say, hey, we have this sitting here, we like to, do something, lean against that or whatever for that. So that's all I'm trying to think about. Because my history here, we went from sometimes having a balanced budget to sometimes saying, okay, we're going to adopt this one, but we know these dollars are coming in, so it's negative on this, but these dollars are coming in. We were doing that back in 2019, and now we have all these balanced budgets, but I want to try to get to more of budgeting for the future. And so it may be hard to get to there because we also have legislation coming that's potential legislation to cap city expenses. And so, that's sometimes the legislators have what they're thinking of, and they definitely don't know what the cities are doing. And so their cap could impact us staffing the facilities in the future. So we have to kind of start thinking about what happens if they put a cap on those resources and we don't have the money because of the cap. So that's really what I want us to be looking towards, is how we're going to have a financial way forward should that cap come. Because right now that's in special session, and I think that's not going to get out of session. But they could have another special session, or it could come back around in 2 years and that could impact us when we're at the time of opening facilities where the cap could come in. So just something I'd like to see if you all can crunch those numbers in, or bring a proposal about what that's going to look like financially.
Okay.
Other than that, I think I'm good with my questions. Does anyone else have questions, thoughts, comments?
I just want to say how I appreciate all the budget analyzing that you guys have been doing over the time, and then to even be able to allow us to not have to raise the taxes unlike everybody else that's around us. And I think also just kind of giving our circumstances, I like how you included it in here on the page 8, just about the sales tax, saying how we only receive half of it, our 2%, because the 1% goes to Cap Metro and the other to the Travis County Emergency District Services. So with them combined claiming the other percentages, but we're still in a space where we're not being required to raise our taxes just to be able to get by. So that's some real number crunching that you guys were doing, given the circumstances that we're stuck in right now. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that, because that is very important. We don't have all the financial tools of the cities have right now, and we're still able to do what we're doing for the community. And don't get, for all y'all out there, was the cameras. For all of y'all out there, trust, it is hard work. It is hard work. You see the number of workshops we did, with 7 workshops, not to include the one-on-one conversations and meetings that have happened for the last several months. So, yeah, it's no small feat.
I can say, Mayor, just to dovetail to everything that we've been talking about, just to get to this point in the budget process. We think going forward there'll be some other tools that we can constantly keep out in front of the people, so that way they can see exactly, and then the reporting that Belen has made some adjustments to. So every month and every quarter, you'll be able to see exactly where we're trending, and then the questions and analysis that you need, give us time. We'll be able to come back and give you that type of, be real-time reporting without us having to wait a whole fiscal year. I mean, we want to make that improvement so the taxpayers, anyone that has a question about anything, we want to make sure, because the story that we have to tell is that we're financially sound, but we also got investments that are coming our way, and we want to be in a position to show investors that we can manage our checkbook, but we also know that added that their investment to us can definitely spread it out. And so we just have to be able to show that and basically give them that roadmap. And I feel this budget is going to allow us to do that, but also the questions that you have about where do we go from here. We got new departments that we need to start planning for, and that's all the information that we can start just sharing with the Community Collaborative Committee, any other committee that we have where citizens are engaged with you council members. We can just, and if we have to go to the HOAs, let that be our charge starting a new fiscal year, so that way we don't have to get halfway through the year and see where we're at. We can just jump start. This is the budget, and then they can track it every meeting that they don't attend, get the reports and see exactly what y'all see.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or a motion?
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion. We close the public hearing on item number 3.
Well, a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? No questions. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. All right, council members. Next up, we have public hearing item 4. Conduct a public hearing on the fiscal year 2025-2026 proposed tax rate of the city of Maynard, Texas. And I kind of already alluded to this one and you all's hard work on that. Do you have any specific things you wanted to highlight?
I just want to highlight that we are keeping the same rate as this current fiscal year. And the border approval tax rate that the county proposed on their calculations was 0.8640 90%. So we like a penny below of the rate that we are proposing.
Can you say that again?
We are like a penny below of what the county provided us in the calculations. You know?
Yeah.
So their calculation was 0.8640 90, and we stand with it 0.8537.
So basically we could have went to 0.86, but we chose to stay at 0.85.
Yeah, we stay with the same with the current.
Yeah. Just want to make sure everybody knows.
Which is about the difference is like 290,000.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Questions, council members, on the rate? Okay, no questions. We'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, council, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 4.
Well, a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Consent agenda. All the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by council and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion on items unless requested by mayor or council member, in which items will be removed from consent agenda and considered separately. Number 5, consideration, discussion, possible action to approve city council minutes. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor, council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as read.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mesmer. Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Right on to the regular agenda. Second and final reading, consideration, discussion, possible action on an item on a ordinance rezoning one lot on 5.565 acres more or less in BNT CAD parcel 236976, also known as 14305 East US Highway 290, Maynard, Texas, from agriculture to commercial to medium commercial. Yes, sir.
Mayor, council, this is the zoning that I referenced in the public hearing earlier that needs to be completed before the specific use permit can be successfully applied for on the lot requesting a medical office.
Hey, council members, did you anyone have any questions about the zoning from agriculture to C2 medium commercial? If there are no questions, then I'll entertain a motion. Any questions? If there are, we do have Mr. Granillo who's here that can answer them. Otherwise, I'll take a motion.
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the second and final reading of ordinance number 797, rezoning one lot on 5.565 acres, more or less in being TCAD parcel 236976, also known as 14305 East US Highway 290, Maynard, Texas, from agricultural to C2 medium commercial.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Rayner. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Mesquer. Any questions to the motion? Did we get any feedback from any folks? I know that was asked earlier.
We did have one community member at the initial reading. They sent in an email just supporting it, but nothing else outside of that.
All right. No questions to the motion? Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, it took me too long. With this one being off of 290 or off of Old Kimbrough, does it require any type of traffic study or like for this one? I know we hadn't got to
It's-
specific use yet, but
Any TIAs that are conducted are typically based on anticipated trips per day, and the trigger is, I never remember if it's 2,000 or 2,500, but once you hit that many trips, there's a threshold that triggers a traffic impact analysis that needs to be done. And particularly since this is off of a TxDOT right-of-way, it would have to be reviewed by multiple entities if it does generate that much traffic, which is unlikely because of the constraints of the site. The majority of it is floodplain, so there's a very small footprint that they're actually able to use.
All right. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving right on to number 7, which is connected to number 6. Consideration, discussion, possible action on this special use permit for a 5,040 square foot medical office on one lot, 5.565 acres more or less, and being TCAD parcel 236976, also known as 14305 East US Highway 290, Manor, Texas. Yes, sir.
This is the specific use permit for the zoning that has just been passed. They are now eligible to receive approval for it. We're available for any questions if there are some.
Any specific questions, council members?
yes.
Go ahead.
Entrance off of 290 only.
Likely so, just because, so the aerial image you see, that's the entire lot. The only actual usable portion is, I don't know how well you can see it, but it's the small dirt triangle in the front. So even if they were to attempt to have a second entrance, there are distance requirements between them that would likely make it not feasible or approved by TxDOT. But the engineer is here to correct me if I'm mistaken or misrepresenting any information.
Yeah. What were you wondering?
I was just
Were you-
wondering, I guess maybe with it being the medical office, I guess it's not a medical office that an ambulance can come in. And it's not a medical office that has a lot of foot traffic.
That is to be determined just based on the tenant. It's not a very large facility considering what it is, and you still have to take into account things like your landscaping, your parking requirement, things of that nature. So the actual amount of space you have to work with has certain requirements it has to meet before you can get into, is there a proper ingress and egress for an ambulance, which again is unlikely, but I can't speak on behalf of the applicant. This is purely to get the ability to have a medical office there. Which again, they are here.
And is that the area map, is that pretty up to date?
Yes, sir.
So you said that the little white building piece, that little tiny spot,
Yes,
is where
that's
the actual medical office building is.
that's the area that's not encumbered by floodplain. The creek actually flows directly through that property.
Oh, how pretty!
That's why you see all that greenery. If you see, you can see where the trees are flowing. That's the pathway of the
That's
creek.
the passable water. Okay, but we just approved that the entire space is commercial.
Yes, if they wanted to use it, they would have to go through the process of working with FEMA to reclaim it from the floodplain, and that is an extremely expensive process. Or if they wanted to just utilize it but get insurance, that is also extremely expensive. It's not common practice for anyone to go that route unless they have extreme funding or extreme plans. And with this specific use permit, the fact that they indicate how large the medical office will be, they're limited to that. That's why it's specific use.
The rest of it, you'd have to come.
The specific use permit grants them the ability to apply for a site plan for a medical office, but anything else that's typically allowed in C2, they can do. The only issue is they're in the middle of a creek. So it's just not very doable. That's why, at least to my understanding, the applicant applied and went this route, because that's the use that they can get reasonable return on investment out of it, because you don't need a lot of parking. Medical offices typically have set clientele that come to it for specific services, and you don't have to worry about heavy traffic encumbrance.
All right. I think we have a motion on the floor. So, if there's no additional questions, all in favor? We didn't have a motion on the floor? Oh, okay. That was the last one. Moving too fast. We need a motion on the floor.
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve a specific use permit for a 5,040 square foot medical office, one lot on 5.565 acres more or less, and being TCAD parcel 236976, also known as 14305 East US Highway 290, Manor, Texas.
Motion on the floor by Councilman Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Wallace. Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-1. All right. 1 second. Get this thing back to working. There we go. All right. Item number 8. Yeah. Consideration, discussion, possible action on a 0.28 acre wastewater easement for Lagos Phase 4 and Phase 5, lots 1A, 1B, and 1C, Block R, Lagos Lakeside Subdivision.
Yeah, Council, this is a water and wastewater easement in Lagos Lakeside. It's just south of Lagos Elementary, near where the wildlife conservation lot is with the pond and then the commercial tracks around it. This is just for infrastructure in the area to be able to be maintained. Yeah, good.
And what is the cost?
Cost? I am not aware of associated costs with the granting of this easement.
So there's no cost to us?
No, sir.
Okay. Questions, council members?
My screen is stuck. Who's the property owner?
This is in the Lagos, so it'd be Dwyer's.
Thank you.
Any reason why the consideration is $10? And that's why I was scrolling out. I was trying to find that section. $10 and other good and valuable consideration, the receipt for sufficiency of which is hereby acknowledged. You want to define that for us?
He's talking about on the first page. This is very small.
Okay, I've got
It's the consideration, $10 and other goods and valuable consideration.
Oh,
the receipt.
that's just standard language to note that there's been some consideration exchanged in exchange for the easement. So that's just a standard form. You find it in most easements and deeds. There's
Okay.
not most times the $10 is not paid.
Okay. Is it necessary? The $10? Does it have at $10?
But no, that language is just standard. Right. It's standard language. I would not. Right. Yeah,
Okay.
and it's a standard clause you find in deeds and easements, and it's very routine. You see it in most everything. So I wouldn't let it trouble you, that language.
Yeah. It's not really the language. It's more so of the history of navigating some of these projects.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And making sure that there's not a gateway.
No, it's
Okay.
just so routine and that it would not be a gateway.
Okay. Questions, council members? If not, I'll entertain the motion.
Mayor and Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve on 0.280 acre water and wastewater easement for Lagos Phase 4 and Phase 5 lots 1A, 1B, and 1C, Block R, Lagos Lakeside Subdivision.
We have a motion to follow by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Mesmer. Any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Second final reading, consideration, discussion on the possible ordinance annexing 2.274 acres more or less, located in Travis County, including abutting streets, roadways, and right-of-ways, including corporate limits of the city, at the request of the property owner, and approving an agreement for the provision of services for the annexed area. Yes, sir.
Mayor Council, this is the second and final reading for Lone Star Electric. They wanted to annex an additional lot for outdoor storage and expanding of their operation.
Any questions, council members? I'll take questions or a motion. I'll take questions or a motion.
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the second and final reading of ordinance number 798 annexing 2.274 acres of land, more or less located in Travis County, including abutting streets, roadways, and right-of-way into the corporate limits of the city at the request of the property owner, and approving an agreement for the provisions of services for the annexed area.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Mesmer. Any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on a special use permit for the commercial gas station development to include 8 MPDs and 4 EV charging stations in the Okra subdivision, 1 lot on 4.11 acres, more or less, and being located at the northwest intersection of Old Manor, Taylor Road, and FM 973. And now we have the presentation. Ms. Shanks.
Good evening, Council. My name is Rachel Shanks, and I'm presenting on the Okra Creek SUP. Just a little recap on Okra, the subdivision. I came in here probably 2023 for a PUD. It's 309 homes and about 4 acres of commercial along FM 973. We do not own all of the frontage. There's like a triangle piece that has come over the years. That's the Velasquez's site. That's about 1 acre. So it's just the the 4 acres that is north of our future intersection of Vidalia and FM 973. I previously went to P&Z with information on a gas station and came back with essentially wanting more information. So I've done a lot of math on how much a gas station can handle in terms of cars per day and what is the trip counts on FM 973 today, what are the future trip counts with everything that is currently in plans and under construction that I know of. And so that is kind of what I'm going to walk through with you guys today, is essentially all of that math, which is super fun. So currently along FM 973, we have Shadow Glen, Stonewater, and Flats at Shadow Glen, which is an apartment complex, which is a roughly 4,300 units along FM 973. The current gas stations, I've noted Chevron, which is an 8-pump, no EV charging, Manor Market, which was recently completed, 8 pumps, and no EV charging. And then, of course, HEB is currently building a gas station, and then there's 2 others within range, one at Walmart and one a little bit further down 290. So this is where the math starts. So the current capacity of the 8-pump gas stations, which are both the same size of Chevron and Manor Market, is about 500, sometimes 600 cars per day is about what they can handle. And that's running a capacity that's not running out of gas. So there's a lot of components within that. And it's about 1 million gallons annually. There are currently 18,000 cars that drive on FM 973 every single day. And that's accounting for people that live on FM 973 and that are just passing through on their way to Pflugerville or back down to 290. So there's a lot of calculations involved with what's the likelihood of all of those cars stopping, or a car stopping needing gas. Obviously, it's not 18,000 cars stopping and needing gas every day. When you're driving down there, I drive there all the time. I stop and get gas in the Manor area about maybe once a month out of all of my visits. And so essentially out of that 18,000 and calculating for the homes in that area, because households too tend to stop more in the gas stations in the area than just the trips passing through, you have about 1,000 cars that'll be stopping along the FM 973 per day. Now, Shadow Glen also has connection points to 290, so not all of the Shadow Glen traffic is going to be coming through, which is why I discounted that to about 624 cars per day. So with the current gas stations that we have on the site, there's plenty of capacity. We have 500 cars can go to the Chevron and 500 cars can go to Manor Market. This is what's coming to FM 973 corridor. We have Okra, which is my subdivision, 309 homes, Monarch Ranch, 400, New Haven, 272, Mustang Valley, 380, and then all of the multifamily projects coming into the area, some on Tower Road, and then the rest on FM 973. All of those trip counts, if you remember from the previous slide, currently on FM 973, we have 18,101. Those trip counts of all of those new subdivisions is 18,473. So we will be more than doubling the amount of trips on FM 973 with the full build out of all of these projects, which goes back to the current situation, which with the 2 gas stations is plenty of capacity. And the 624 cars that are potentially stopping every day out of the 18,000, they can go to Manor Market, which is a ride in, ride out, or they can go to the Chevron. With the full build out of all of these subdivisions, we're looking at 1,414 cars needing to stop. There'll be traffic counts of 36,000 to 40,000 cars driving on FM 973 every single day. So when you add in the new capacity and full build out of all of these subdivisions, a gas station will be needed. Otherwise, those gas stations will be running out of gas. And I did discount Shadow Glen, of course, from the 1,000 cars stopping every day to 600 because some of those cars will be funneling to the gas stations along 290 to account for there are other gas stations in Manor besides the ones on FM 973. So with all of that information, essentially, it's not needed now, but it is needed in the future. And if I was to get approval tonight, me personally will be waiting until phase 1 of the project is done before I even start down the process of architecture and designing and submitting my site development permit and my building permit. So we're looking at potentially a year and a half, 2 years before this gas station would be ready to go. And in those year and a half, 2 years, how many homes and all of those new projects and all of those cars associated with that will be needing gas. So that's why I'm here today, providing the evidence and all of the trip counts on FM 973. So we're proposing, again, we have 4 acres in the Okra subdivision. The 4 acres does not going to have any detention. The subdivision is handling the detention. So we will be able to have essentially more square footage for the restaurant and retails, and we're doing a whole strip center with the gas station. We are suggesting to do 8 fueling pumps, which is similar to the size of Manor Market and the Chevron on FM 973. But in addition to those, we are suggesting 4 EV charging. There's currently no EV charging at those gas stations, and it is quite a hassle for them to add it, which they may over the time, but we are suggesting that we would have it right off the bat. There's also more commercial along FM 973. Monarch has about 11 acres of commercial. New Haven has about 2.5. So we're not allocating everything to a gas station. There's quite a bit more coming into the area. I look at, our gas station helps anchor. I've had a lot of conversations with different commercial, but it helps me getting going. It helps me set the architectural standards for the area, and then also is providing a service that will be needed in the future. These are some other fun facts that I've pulled. So if you wanted to know the trip count for 290, it's about 60,000 per day right now. And I thought it was very interesting if you're looking at how many cars are on FM 973, how many turn into Tenahara, and it was over 14,000. So there's a lot of cars going in on FM 973, but also that live right off of there. So it goes back to how many cars are having to stop, get gas. And I know from my experience, the Chevron one can get backed up. So then I keep driving and look for a different gas station, and I keep going. I know that the revenue impact for gas station is a little bit lower than some of the other sales tax that you guys can experience, but I did carve out, since we don't need detention, it's less acreage, and our property tax revenue would be about $14.5 annually. I've got sales tax revenue in there, and then total city tax revenue. And the property tax revenue is just y'all's percentage. It's not the overall for everything. It's what you guys would be receiving in, not having to give out to the county or the ESD. So, and then the revenue sources based historically, fuel sales, food and beverage, and other services. And that is my presentation.
First, thank you for crunching the numbers. Appreciate it. I think I'm a numbers person, so I can definitely appreciate the information. Councilmember, I'd like to add that we know probably by December, we'll see a larger, more usage of the Manor Commons area, which means there will be a lot more people coming south from 0973 as well. So those trip counts we know are going to increase. I'll also like to highlight that she did not put the neighborhood that's already going in place north of the senior high school or to the east of 973. That's also kind of northeast from that location. So there's 2 additional areas that are going in right there that have increased amount of usage. It also does not include our apartment complex that we're doing right off of, Tower Road. It doesn't include Tower Road numbers that we're doing over there, and the commercial areas that are still for sale on Tower Road that could easily go into commercial or something different. So thank you for the conservative numbers for that, but we know that those numbers are going to be a lot higher in our report. Questions, comments?
How far down?
On FM 973? So Okra is immediately adjacent to Shadow Glen. So we're a little bit north of what I call the North Suncrest Loop, and across from, I think it's like a light industrial office park. We're across the street from that. And I wanted to add, as part of Okra's PUD process and everything, we're doing TxDOT improvements. We're doing a center lane from Tenahara to North Suncrest Loop, and then we're doing a right turn lane into the site to help with traffic flow. And if you wanted to see where the other gas stations were, I have Okra labeled at the top. They're roughly, I have the Chevron one is 0.8 miles away. It would be like the AM traffic if you lived in Okra or north of Okra. And then Manor Market would be the PM. And it can only be the PM because it's a right in, right out only. It's not full access.
Yeah. So if you all look where you see Okra, and then if you look to the right of it, there's a kind of white square area, that industrial area. And then there's a green field right there. That green field, well, that road is Tower Road, and that green field is the apartment complex
I think there's...
that we're doing. It's not on the screen right there. It's hidden behind the words now on that screen. Yeah. Questions, comments? Last note I want to make is this did come to us in 2023, and we did have a positive outlook on the project. And I know that this was something that we talked about back then in our Economic Development Committee. So I just want to make sure the council knows that it was a favorable communication or conversation in Economic Development Committee.
Mayor, Council, before a motion is made, the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend denial for this when they heard it, so a majority vote would be needed to approve it, just for informational purposes.
Yeah, and that would be a five plus vote.
Yes, sir.
Supermajority is 5, right? Okay. Six. Okay. So before we vote, let's please ask our questions so that we can.
How far is this from Compass Rose?
Compass Rose is, if you see like that empty triangle of land. Oh.
It's south from Compass Rose, less than a mile.
It's like 0.7 miles because it's Compass Rose is right by Manor Market. So if you see Manor Market, Compass Rose is adjacent to that.
Other questions or concerns? Questions?
I'm not sure if I can ask, but why did P&Z disapprove?
From what I remember, they're pretty much anti gas stations right now.
Pardon me? What was the question? I'm sorry.
She asked why did P&Z disapprove, and I said and I said from the last I remember, they were just kind of anti-gas stations.
Yes, it was the, I guess I don't want to say thought or feeling of the P&Z. What was conveyed is that we have enough gas stations that currently exist, and they felt a better or higher use could be placed on the property for the subdivision that it serves.
Yeah, and I just wanted to warn council against telling people different things without actually having data. And this is why I requested to have the data so we can make an informed decision and based off of numbers, if there's a need, if there's not a need. And I think that helps us to understand, because I know we all have our varying opinions about when we need a gas station and when we don't. And so it's always good to go to the data and look in and make a determination. There's two things, right? If I'm a company, I'm going to run my numbers and do my data analytics, because I'm not going to open the business that's going to fail. And so I'm gonna do my own due diligence as a company to ensure that I'm gonna be successful. The other set of numbers is what we've asked, or probably specifically what I asked for them to come back with, which was what's the average uses, what's the tallies, and does it actually warrant having something? And that's the information we got back today in regards to if there's nothing that's ever going to happen on 973, then we have enough gas stations. But we're actually going to double the traffic to nearly 40,000. Hence the reason why we've been having conversations with TxDOT about highway solution in 3 lanes going through 973, because we know that's going to be an increased amount of traffic. I think the work that's the new projects that are going to happen because of the Samsung Tesla deal is also going to generate more employment situations in this region, which is also going to be another factor on the traffic on 290 and 973 because of the need of that thoroughfare to go from southeast Austin to Taylor. So ask your questions.
What is going to be in that building next to the gas pumps? Where the little umbrellas are.
On the Okra 4 acres,
You had to slide up. Can you bring that slide back?
it is.
I know it's probably hard. She can't. It's hard to see it way over there.
I don't remember where I had it. There we go.
Yeah.
So my intention, and some of this is based on how this conversation goes tonight, is to do like a strip center that would have either a restaurant, like it could be a coffee shop or a nail salon, like neighborhood uses, since we only have 4 acres and our depth is like 350 feet, and stuff that would support the community. But that's my goal with that. We've had preliminary conversations, but nothing has been finalized. We have C2 zoning on this track within our PUD. There's restricted uses that are not desirable to be next to neighborhoods. It's not intended for any of those uses to come to light for the strip center, but that would be my vision, is neighborhood uses.
So no plans for a liquor store?
No, unless you want a liquor store. No, just kidding.
Thank you.
No. And I think that's a restricted use within the PUD. I'd have to go back. It's like pawn shops and like car mechanics, and either loud or kind of undesirable to be right next to a residence.
Other questions?
Is this the gas station? Would the entrance only be from 973? The entrance and exit?
Yes. Well, if we go to, so Monarch has, I think 4 acres that abuts our 4 acres, and then they've got 7 on the other side. I worked on Monarch Ranch, and we've worked out a potential right in, right out on that. So you would come in, and if you were just turning into the uses, you could turn in. And we're also like, the goal was to make that whole, even though we're 2 separate projects, to make all of that commercial connected, so then you could turn on to Nahara. But as of right now, without that commercial pad getting developed, we would just be turning in, our entrance is called Vidalia. So turning in on Vidalia and then turning off. And that's why I made it a boulevard entrance of Collector, just to have it wider than your typical ones that you see.
Yeah. Another fun fact from 2023, all of that frontage commercial was an adjustment that both developers did at our request to add commercial down 973. So just want to make sure. Questions, comments?
I just know some people, that store that was built right next to Compass Rose are having somewhat some issues now with people going in and out, because they have the one from 973 going in and just the little curve coming out. And it conflicts with a lot of parents who are trying to pick up their children from the school. So I just, worry about that entrance and exit.
So I think the issue with Compass Rose and Manor Market is the whole, they both have a right in, right out instead of full access, and there's no center turn lane on that. So Okra will have that. I don't believe our TxDOT plans. Is the North Suncrest Loop just right south of the industrial? Oh, I call it the North Suncrest Loop because but it's like I'm trying to hold up. I want to make sure I'm speaking correctly. Sorry, I just wanted to pull up my TxDOT improvements and not misspeak. Okay. Yeah, so our center turn lane will taper after the North Suncrest, but we will have full access for our site. And then I think the plans is Kimley Horn is also working on improvements south of us on their project, so that they're tying in. But I don't know if that answered your question, but I think the issue with Compass Rose and Manor Market is the lack of full access and the lack of a center turn lane to give people like a holding spot to sit in, and they don't have that right now. And our TxDOT improvements are already underway and will be completed with our first phase. So it's not like it's something that's coming years down the road. So.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I'm gonna say that. How set in stone is your timeline for this gas station? You said about 2 years out, starting.
My bandwidth right now is to get out of phase 1, wrap up the TxDOT, probably kick off phase 2, and this is subdivision work, and kick off phase 2. So my personal timeline is probably to not even start the planning process of this until next year. And then, with going vertical with something, there's a lot more architects and a lot of pieces involved. So our internal process is, probably 6 months. And then we've got to go with review with the city, which I would assume would be probably another 4 to 6 months with questions. And so we're looking at a year before I even have a year from
Plus.
January. Yeah. So a year and a half from today, but then I've got to build. So that's why I was like 2 years, but that would be kind of getting going with it. You're looking at probably more like 2.5, 3 years before it's ready to go, which is why I'm coming to you guys today with something like this instead of waiting until the demand is there, as we would be kind of meeting the demand as it's happening.
Other questions?
You said going vertical. Are you going 2-story? Or are you just going vertical?
No,
I meant
just
vertical.
out of the
So
ground.
I'm used to subdivision where I'm like, I build roads and not houses. This would be like I'm going vertical with the building.
Yeah.
With all the projected growth that's coming for that area, is there a possibility to phase in more EV stations?
There's potential. I mean, I think the biggest is my conversations with Bluebonnet with how much can I have. Gas stations already have a relatively high demand. And so I know that there's enough capacity for some, but it would definitely be a conversation of how much.
Just to add to that, with a specific use permit, she would either have to come back for an adjustment or provisions would need to be made now to allow for more than the 4.
So that's, I guess, a conversation I have to spend more in depth with Bluebonnet and how much demand they'll let us have. And that's why it's complicated for gas stations to come back and add it when they would have to add like transformers and potential underground work to get the EV spots.
The furthest gas station from 290.
Yes. Okay.
Pardon me, I don't know if anyone is familiar or recalls, there is a site plan currently approved for a gas station in front of Palomino, directly across from the senior high school. My
That's the one
understanding
with
is
the
there's a
liquor
history
store.
with that, but they have not gone vertical, but they do have an approved site plan. We just don't know what they're doing with that.
There's not, because I drive FM 973 to Foxgrove to Cameron. There's no gas stations until you hit.
Almost Huddle.
Yeah.
1610. What is it? Is it 1610? No. It's a 4-digit number.
Yeah, it's very far. Mhm.
Huh? 66. There you go. I knew it had 16 in it. Yeah, right before you hit that big curve, there's one right there with like 2 or 4 pumps. But that doesn't give us money. Let's be clear.
Is this property come in, Mr. Jones, after 2013?
It's been in the city limits for a long time, but I don't know. 2013 was a long time ago.
It's the ad valorem that we get. And the business opportunities. All right, council members, either questions or a motion?
With potential expansion of 973, how's that going to impact your business?
Like right of way?
Yeah, you're right.
So 973 already has all of the right of way that it needs. Like I said previously, Okra is adding a center turn lane and a right turn lane for the roads, but that's not like we didn't give up any land for that. It's already there. They own quite a bit, I think, on the east side of FM 973. So I believe they have everything that they need.
Yeah, Councilmember Rhino, when we had those meetings with them, that's pretty much what they told us. So the only thing that has halted the project has been their time and attention on 35, but they do have what they need to go all the way to Taylor. For the most part, I think. You recall anything, Mr. Moore, different?
I know the recent study that they had started, they were looking at some on and off ramps, and we didn't quite get that far in the study. So that might be something that for the council to take into consideration, is to engage TxDOT and Campo just to make sure what's protected there within their right of way. Because if not, they're going to have to acquire more something between there and Greg Lane. If not, just based on that initial study, they said if they were to do a flyover at Greg Lane, it could be 3 miles before you'd be another exit to turn around and come back. So it was there were some restrictions that TxDOT had kind of pointed out to us in that preliminary in the beginning, that anything that goes through there, and then special exit and off ramps there by Shadow Glen Trace. So there's going to be some, and that's what we're trying to look at with Campo, is to make sure as we grow, do we have something figured out for our on and off ramps? Because like she said, if you got 14,000 turning into the one subdivision, and you got these other, there's going to be a lot of traffic up there, and we don't really have a good solution with the traffic. So it's just things that we're going to have to be thinking out loud. I know we're going to have the one road that's going to go from New Haven through Monarch to Okra to get down to Shadow Glen Trace. That's a good relief, but for the locals. But anything else can be. We're just going to have some challenges we're going to have to work through, just to make sure we don't, be too restricted with TxDOT, or need to give us the right on and off ramp, especially if the fire department's still going to be on Greg Lane there.
Mayor and Council, Scott Jones, Economic Development Director, but I'll correct that last statement. This parcel is part of a larger parcel that was apparently annexed back in 2003. So we do have sales taxes.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Burrell, you want to, there was a question earlier about P&Z, but you want to, you haven't been able to share why city staff's recommendation is to deny it.
Yes, I did not alter the recommendation, as we actually didn't receive the presentation until yesterday. I tried to do some research myself, but I bit off a bit more than I can chew as I went a little too analytical. A lot of what I was looking for had actual algorithms that required very in-depth trip counts and certain information that wasn't available to me in the allotted time. So upon receiving Rachel Shank's presentation, it seemed more than sufficient for what you were asking for. I just hadn't had the chance to change the recommendation before we received the information.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, council members, need a motion to approve or not approve so we can move forward. I'll ask one more time. Need a motion on the floor for this item. Could be for item number 10.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a recommendation that the City Council approve a specific use permit for a commercial gas station development to include 8 MPDs and 4 EV charging stations to the Okra subdivision, 1 lot on 4.111 acres, more or less, and being located at the northeast intersection of Old Maynard, Taylor Road, and FM 973, Maynard, Texas.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Hill. Is there a second?
Wait a second.
Second by Councilwoman Mesco. Any questions to the motion?
I have a question. You said that in order for them to add more EV pumps, we would either have to make it.
They would have to come back to adjust the current specific use permit or take
we would
provisions
have
out.
to do it now, right?
Either or.
So can we do the 4 and up to a certain amount,
Can they?
depending on what they find out from Bluebonnet?
It was noticed for 4. Like in the notice that was sent out, it was 8 MPDs, 4 EV chargers.
What we have?
I think you'd have to stick with what was in the notice. Yeah.
So, okay.
Thank you.
You beat me to it, Councilwoman Wallace. That was going to be. All right. We have a motion for any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-1. Let's see. Number 11, consideration, discussion, possible action on agreement to transfer approximately 0.80 acres more of a 1.069 acre tract from Manville Water Supply Corporation certificated water service area to the City of Manor certificated service area. Yes, sir. Ms. Burrell. Or whomever.
I can speak to this one.
Okay.
Mayor and Council, Page Sign, City Attorney, for the record. This agenda item is contract you've become familiar with, where the city and Manville enter into agreements to transfer CCN from one entity to another. This is property owner requested 0.8 acres be transferred from Manville to Manor's Water CCN to seek water service from the city of Manor, and Manville has approved this agreement, and now it's here for your consideration. Recommendation is approval.
Mayor and Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agreement for item number 11.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Councilwoman Musgrove. Any questions to the motion? No questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to item number 12, consideration, discussion, possible action on ordinance amending Article 11.04 hotel occupancy tax of the Code of Ordinances of City of Manor, Texas, by adding a section for short-term rentals. Who's coming up for that one?
Handle that one as well. Mayor and Council, Page Signs again. This ordinance amends the city's hotel occupancy tax ordinance to make clear that there is a new section for registering short-term rentals, so that they will pay they will also pay hotel occupancy tax. They're technically subject to it. And so this gives the city a way to track and recover those funds.
Questions, comments, council members?
This is for like Airbnbs, right? How's that going to be enforced and managed?
I'm not sure if I can speak to that.
We've had preliminary, Mayor Council, Michael Burrell, Development Services Director for the City of Manor. We've had preliminary conversations about contacting different organizations that are responsible for ensuring registration and enforcing the notification of taxes and things of that nature. It was actually the very first question I posed: who's going to go out and knock on these people's doors and say, hey, you owe taxes? But we're working through that. We've had conversations with Chief Mr. Moore, and we're now that if this is in place, we can start enforcing it and going about finding a pathway to ensuring that it's complied with.
Yeah, I think the first thing we have to do is have the ordinance, so that we can, have the leg to stand on from that. It doesn't mean we have to rush off to start enforcing. It just means that once the ordinance is passed, that there is that people are liable for it. I think they're already liable by state law, right?
I'm sorry.
I think they're already liable by state law.
Technically, yes.
So
Yeah,
it's just getting us in line with the state.
Correct.
What is the penalty for someone not paying their hotel tax?
So for the city, you can enforce through civil enforcement. So you could sue them for failure to pay hotel occupancy tax. and there's interest that can get charged, late penalties and interest that can get charged for that. They also have to file reports so that you can see that they're reporting their hotel occupancy taxes and paying those. That's kind of the extreme version of it. The ordinance also has a process in here for permit revocation if there's failure to comply. I'm just seeing what other items you've got in here. Yeah, so you've got some permitting mechanism options in here for enforcing the ordinance. Yeah, so those are the two options: a permit enforcement, and then you can enforce through penalties and interest on those occupancy tax that weren't timely paid. Ultimately, you can enforce it through a lawsuit.
Thank you.
Mayor, Council, I can say when we were at the TML conference in Houston, there was a booth where there's a company that goes and tracks all Airbnbs or these short-term rentals, and they can pull up Maynard's zip code and they would be able to verify how many is registered. So having the ordinance in place will allow us to be able to cross-reference if they're paying or not, and so having the ordinance, and if we were to use a tool like that, we'll be able to make sure everybody that's registered with the state is paying that, remitting it back to the city. Because I think we've gotten some emails over the last 6 months. Somebody wanted to remit for short-term rental, and we just didn't have it. So we've been kind of working through this. That's why the ordinance before you today, so we can go ahead and have this in place to have people submit on their own without being enforced by anything that we have to enforce them by.
Other questions, comments?
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 799, amending Article 11.04, hotel occupancy tax of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Manor, Texas, by adding a section for short-term rentals.
Well, motion on the floor by Councilman Moreno. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Ware. Any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. All right, moving along to item number 13. Resolution, consideration, discussion, and possible action on resolution creating the Mayor's Challenge Coin Program Better Together for the City of Manor. Let's see, council members, you all remember we talked about this several meetings ago. Went to legal so that they could bring the resolution forward, and we have resolution present. Are there any additional questions? Yes, ma'am.
What area will keep track of these going on? It's like what department or?
Trying to jog my memory. I mean, this can be a joint between the Community Collaborative Committee and community engagement person. That would be my thoughts, because it's all about people in the community engaging this way. I don't foresee it being a large amount of people participating in it, and to the point to where it's overwhelming amount of paperwork or anything like that. people have to turn in, they have to do the work and then turn it in. So it's reviewing. The most of the time, it's going to be reviewing at a certain time period the work that's submitted for consideration of the coin. But the activities may take up to a year for it to be done. So we're looking at an annual. In my mind, this is an annual process. So it's a start, and then it's an annual review, and then there's this awarding of the coin.
Thank you.
Additional questions?
Mayor, Council. So we wanted to bring this back to you. It was discussed, was it last meeting, several meetings ago? It's going to fall under the administration department eventually, pretty much. I mean, you guys fall under admin. The mayor we wanted to get this approved. The staff has not had a chance to review it. It might be amended. I know that we had talked about, that's why it says draft on here, but we wanted to we want to go ahead and get it approved as is. And it's probably going to be promoted on the website, something like that. So it's going to be a learning process, but it is going to be administered through the admin office. I'm working with the mayor as well. Just wanted to point that out.
Other questions?
The part where it says the program encourages residents to complete the past 1 year, is that a calendar year or whenever they want to start?
Whenever we start. So, I mean, we'll select if we're doing the turn in application at a certain date and time. But it's a year from whenever we accept the application.
Oh, okay, so that goes in with the admin department kind of deciding. Okay.
Yeah. So it can, I mean, the intention is to be able to honor and at the Mayor Ball, which means they would have to start at the same time every year to be able to honor it at that. December. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I did also want to point out the cost for the program is not to exceed the 40,000. It's a part of the resolution, and that's coming out of the community programs from council's budget.
Mm-hmm. And just reminding council that because the intention was to honor at the Mayor Ball, that's why the amount is the amount that it is because it would be connected to that. So when we're selecting and honoring folks, I think this all kind of goes together. So we're just trying to build one big, large program around that. Still with the intention to get sponsors to cover the cost of the event, or even some sort of ticket cost to generate revenue that could cover the event, but also go back into the community event or to some type of community grants or something like that at some point in time. But the intention is to generate revenue from sponsors and gifts to cover the event. But this amount ensures we have enough to do what we need to do. As you all recall, what the budget was, it was definitely under $40,000. That makes sense?
Mayor, when is the anticipated, launch of the applications, if this should go through,
Well,
just time-wise, like?
So this is I mean, we're in September now, and if we're talking about, a year, then like I said, to be able to, if we're going to maintain the awards, community awards thing with the Mayor Bar in December, then we're going to spend the rest of this calendar year designing and then marketing, and then starting in January for next year. Does that make sense? So
Perfect. Thank you.
So I don't foresee if that's my thought of the timeline. So there's no fiscal impact even in the current budget. This actually be in 26-27 fiscal budget out of the already established allocation. Yeah, because the intention is not to rush, but to have enough time to plan it out and have everything so that it goes well. And now that we have our marketing person on the team, we want to make sure we have ample time to really market it, and then see kind of what responses we're getting back to see if it's going to be larger, smaller than the anticipation. So I think starting in January is a better situation. Other questions? Yes. Which is, I think, page 262. Other questions?
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 2025-34, creating the Mayor's Challenge Coin Program, Better Together, for the City of Manor.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? No questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding a facility use agreement between the City of Manor and Manor Independent School District.
Mayor, Council, the item before you is the Manor Excel Academy that's currently vacant. Been working with Dr. Sormani and his team about finding out another use for that facility, and they've pretty much agreed in principle with the agreement that's been sent to us. And if we give approval, we can sign this, and we would have a new tenant for that space, which would be one of our city departments to occupy that space, hopefully before the end of the year.
Any questions, comments, council members? You want to share the fiscal impact?
I think currently right now, going forward, if we're able to work with the school and secure some other parcels for a future elementary school, right now we have $1 plugged into the lease, and it could remain $1 going forward instead of market rate for the space. And so I think talking to Dr. Simon and his team, we'll continue to work with them in securing that 14 acres, but in return, the city would be able to occupy this space for basically $1 a year.
Questions, comments?
Has there been consideration for the actual use of the facilities?
I think we haven't had discussion of the actual, besides, there's a couple of buildings that are not, should be accessible to the public, but there's a couple of other buildings that can be used immediately. And so that's what we're focused on. If there's anything else on the footprint, I think this agreement will allow us to work back with the school. And
We don't have the draft.
oh, you don't have to draft. You don't.
It's not listed in there.
Oh.
Can you get that sent to us and we come back to it after executive?
Yes, sir. We can do that.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I didn't.
Oh, no worries. I think that's what I was looking for to see that.
Oh.
Okay. All right. City Council will now convene into executive session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, and deal with the items listed there and come back to item 14. Time is now 10:35. City Council will now reconvene to open session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code. We're going to come back to 14 at the end. Number 15, consideration, discussion, possible action on agreement for billing and collection services between Travis County and the City of Manor related to Mustang Valley Public Improvement District. Is there a motion on the floor, council members?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agreement for billing and collection services between Travis County and the City of Manor related to the Mustang Valley Public Improvement District.
Well, motion on the floor by Councilmember Moreno. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Moving along to item number 16. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on an agreement for billing and collection services between Travis County and the City of Manor related to New Haven Public Improvement District. Is there a motion on for council members?
Mayor Council, make a motion that we approve the agreement for billing and collection services between Travis County and the City of Manor related to the New Haven Public Improvement District.
Well, motion on the floor by Councilmember Moreno. Is there a second?
Second.
Well, second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 17, consideration, discussion, possible action on a resolution of the City of Manor, Texas, approving a preliminary 2025 amended and restated service and assessment plan, including the proposed 2025 assessment roll for the Lagos Public Improvement District, and calling for a public hearing on authorized City of Manor, Texas Special Assessment Revenue Bonds Series 2025 Lagos Public Improvement District Area number 1 project. Council members, you have the updated handout in front of you with the language changes and paper copy. Is there any additional questions? If there aren't any, I'll take a motion. Go ahead, sir.
Heath Delgado Acosta. Good evening. I just want to make sure that when you make the motion that it includes the correct hearing date of October 1st.
Okay. And so you want us, right now, the recommendation doesn't have a date at all. You want us to
Correct.
include October 1st?
I think that if you motion is along the lines of move to approve the resolution, noting that the hearing date is October 1st rather than September 17th.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that the City Council approve Resolution 2025-28 with the hearing date of October 1 versus the September 17th date for the City of Maynard, Texas, approving a preliminary 2025 amended and restated service and assessment plan, including the proposed 2025 assessment roll for the Lagos Public Improvement District, directing the filing of the proposed 2025 assessment roll with the city secretary to make said proposed assessment roll available for public inspection as revised.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Weir. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Wallace. Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Opposed? Motion passes 5-1. Number 18. That was Councilwoman Nemesqua. No, there's only 5, but 6 of us up here. Number 18, consideration, discussion, and possible action on the resolution of the City of Maynard, Texas, approving the form authorization of distribution of preliminary limited offering memorandum for the City of Maynard, Texas Special Revenue Bond Series 2025, Lagos Public Improvement District Area Improvement Area Number 1. Do we need to state the date on this one as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion on the floor? Is there a motion or any questions about this item?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 2025-29 and moving the hearing date to October 1st, 2025 of the City of Maynard, Texas, approving the form and authorizing the distribution of a preliminary limited offering memorandum for the City of Maynard, Texas Special Assessment Revenue Bonds, Series 2025, Lagos Public Improvement District, Improvement Area 1 project as revised.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Moreno. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Opposed? 6-1. Number 19, consideration, discussion, possible action on a resolution of the City of Maynard, Texas, determine the cost of certain authorized improvements to be financed by the New Haven Public Improvement District, approving a preliminary service and assessment plan, including the proposed assessment rolls, calling for notice of a public hearing for October 1st, 2025, to consider an ordinance levying assessments on property located within the New Haven Public Improvement District, directing and filing of the proposed assessment rolls with the city secretary to make said proposed assessment rolls available for public inspection, directing city staff to publish and mail notice of said public hearing, and resolving other matters related to the foregoing. Is there a motion on the floor, council members?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 2025-30 of the City of Maynard, Texas, determining the cost of certain authorized improvements to be financed by the New Haven Public Improvement District, approving a preliminary service and assessment plan, including the proposed assessment rolls, calling for a public hearing for October 1st, 2025, to consider an ordinance levying assessments on property located within the New Haven Public Improvement District, directing the filing of the proposed assessment rolls with the city secretary to make said proposed assessments rolls available for public inspection, directing city staff to publish and mail notice and said public hearing, and resolving other matters related to the foregoing as revised.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Moreno. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Moving right along to item number 20, consideration, discussion, possible action on a resolution of the City of Maynard, Texas, approving the form and authorizing the distribution of preliminary limited offering memorandum of the City of Maynard, Texas, special revenue trust, special assessment revenue bonds, series 2025, New Haven Public Improvement District. Any questions, council members? If not, is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that the City Council approve Resolution 2025-31 with a hearing date of October 1st for the City of Maynard, Texas, approving the form and authorizing the distribution of a preliminary limited offering memorandum for the City of Maynard, Texas, Special Assessment Revenue Bonds, Series 2025, New Haven Public Improvement District, as revised.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Weir. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Moreno. Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Council members, now we're gonna go back to item number 14. Actually, let me state we're correct. We're not doing 21 today. So so this 14 will be the last item of the night. Consideration, discussion, possible action regarding a facility use agreement between the City of Maynard and Maynard Independent School District. Thank you all for getting us the copy and with the information. Council members, there was a question that I think I posed about the cost. And if you look at Article 3 on page 3, you can see that area. So where it says fiscal impact on the agenda item sheet, there's the listed situation in the comments there that Mr. Moore was talking about in regards to his communication and partnership with Dr. Samani. Page 3. It's in the handout that you get put on that we gave us. There you go. And so you can see the usage on page 1, 1.0. You can see the rental agreement there, and you can see I guess 1.07 where I'm just going through the changes. User may from time to time hold events on premises that require food beverage vendors that permit the sale of such goods to the public, but such will not be a full-time use of the premises. Were y'all saying something? Oh.
Mayor and Council, Paige Sign, City Attorney for the record. I reviewed it, and there's just a few additional legal things that need to be tweaked in there. They want the city to carry insurance, and we need to make it risk pool coverage because that's what your TML is. They've got some indemnification language in there. We have to limit to the extent permitted by law. And I think PD might want to look at the alteration sections that school can remove and keep items that get installed just to make sure that doesn't interfere with items the police department has to keep. So those were my main comments. I agreed with the comments that Mr. Jones pointed out as well. So if this is something the council wants to consider approving tonight, you could approve it subject to final form approved by city manager and city attorney.
Thank you for those notes.
With it, because you've got the fiscal impact already identified in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Councilwoman. Rich.
Found a typo on Article 2 in the blue. It has SIVTY. I think they meant 60.
Yeah.
Not spicy.
Yep. Any other questions or catches? So, council members, you have a choice of in motion language if you choose to approve to well, it says authorize the city manager to execute the finalized agreement, but we want to say after legal review. Okay, so we're adding that line after city manager to execute finalized agreement after legal review.
Financial person is gone. Can we afford that?
Yeah. Any additional questions, council members?
I think
If
that was
not,
my
I'll
question
take the-
too.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I guess not just the affording part, and probably I didn't read it right, but with the termination, when you won't be obligated to continue. It's month to month, so when you give the notice, then you don't have to continue paying. So your contract is over. You don't have to pay until the end of the month because you said you wanted 36 months, and you did. So that's that. That was just one. But then also, I guess the other was just the because it is an as is, and if all the parts, all the building spaces are not if there was one space that is, I don't know the right word, inhabitable, that you can use, but then it's connected to a space that's not usable. And so even with normal wear and tear that's excused in here, then if something happens to the other side of the building, are you responsible for it? But it affects your side. Like if it's an adjoining or adjacent wall or something.
How these buildings, we should have had a map so we could show them what they look like. But these are actually, when you drive up to the campus, you have, you're crossing the railroad tracks, there's buildings on this side and there's buildings on the right side. So the 100 and 200 wings are the building that's on the right side. That's where they actually had school at. So those are both sets of buildings are actually functionable and operational. So there wouldn't be any other entrance into it outside of. There's nothing adjacent, except across to the left side where the roadway is, but nothing's going to be in there. So it'll be abandoned buildings and then only the police on the campus and the occasional people that drive to the back for the games. You see it? Yeah, it's only on the right side. There's only two buildings. Which one? Oh, it's messing with your eyes. Oh. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Other questions? If not, I'll take motion.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve a facility use agreement between the City of Manor and Manor Independent School District as to form and authorize the city manager to execute the finalized agreement pending legal review.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilman Rayner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? Any additional questions? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? That was a slow handout. Where's yours? Okay. Passes 7-0. Time's 10:53. Meeting is adjourned.